Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night on the Night of Champions pay-per-view, WWE ran the gimmick of making people go to the WWE app and WWE.com in order to vote on their favorite champions for each championship and awarded them the greatest champion of all time award. I'm not one to partake in these polls. I used to really love Cyber Sunday as a pay-per-view. I honestly, until they started charging you with the last pay-per-view, to text in or call in your votes. I used to love voting for those online and texting in my votes and seeing if what I thought was going to happen on the pay-per-view. But when it comes down to Monday Night Raw, unless they do the Twitter things, which I don't think they do anymore because they want you to go onto the app and actually press the button to vote, I just don't do it. I just don't care. Whatever happens is whatever happens. And I know it's not like the presidential election. Whatever happens, if you don't vote, you can't complain. I just go along with whatever happens. But last night they gave away, the greatest champion. They gave Hulk Hogan the greatest WWE champion, which is honestly something that I truly believe in. Honestly, I was surprised that Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't get the vote, but apparently there's more Hogan fans out there than I thought there were. Sting was voted the greatest United States champion. DX was voted the greatest tag team of all time, which is very debatable. I guess you can say that they're the biggest stars that were on that list, but Legion of Doom was probably the greatest tag team of all time, and I think a lot of people laughed at that one. If I had to vote, I would have voted for Demolition, who wasn't involved inside the voting. The greatest Intercontinental champion of all time was, Mr. Perfect didn't win it. Macho Man didn't win it. Son of a bitch. I'm not going to go look it up. But whoever it was probably somebody that was, it wasn't Kofi Kingston, I can tell you that much. But it slipped my mind in the making of this video. But the one thing that really did boggle my mind was Booker T was voted the greatest WWE champion of all, no, Booker T was voted the greatest World Heavyweight Champion of all time. I apologize. Now, the one reason why this really boggles my mind is I know Booker T is there and Booker T's on the staff, but I don't think anybody really looks at Booker T as some sort of real legend. Yes, he got put in the WWE Hall of Fame last year, but when it comes to the World Heavyweight Championship, he only held the title for 100 days in a very weak era. On SmackDown, which involved his biggest feud was being Batista. He won the title from Rey Mysterio, which a lot of people looked at as some sort of like a hallelujah, thank the Lord. Somebody finally took it off him. Rey Mysterio's title run that year is probably one of the biggest fails of all time. Just him winning the title at WrestleMania was supposed to be some sort of a big monumental moment, but the reason they kept shoving Eddie Guerrero's death down our throat just rubbed people the wrong way. And the way that they kept booking him in matches as the ultimate underdog and losing matches on SmackDown to Great Khali, not being able to finish matches at the ECW pay-per-view against Sabu. It was just countless match after match after match, him not getting his hand raised as the true victor. How can you really be the champion if you're not winning the matches? If you're just like, the guy kicks your ass and they disqualify you, or like with the Sabu case, they do a spot outside the ring and then the ref says that nobody's able to continue. To me, honestly, it just doesn't make any sense. The whole thing. But this is about Booker T, to bring it back to that. But when you go over that time period of 2006, SmackDown was fun, but SmackDown didn't really have any big stars at that time. It wasn't until I think Edge came into his own in 2007 that he really took that World Heavyweight Championship and pushed it to the next level. When you look at the voting for this, it was Booker T, Edge, Batista, Undertaker, and Ric Flair. Now, look, I wouldn't be making this video if any of the other guys won except Booker T. The Booker T's reaction when this came down was just downright funny. I mean, all he could do was laugh. I mean, what was he really going to do? Stand up and proclaim that he really thought he was the greatest World Heavyweight Champion of all time? The greatest World Heavyweight Champion of all time. When you look at that belt, there's only one person's face that should come to mind, and that's Ric fucking Flair. Ric Flair is the greatest World Heavyweight Champion of all time. No one will ever be as good as him. They might be able to put that title on somebody like John Cena and push him to the ranks of, being like a 17-time champ. But when you say 16-time World Heavyweight Champion, that means something. That is huge, because when he had this title back in the day, you didn't, sweet pop this thing around like, they do today, where, it's every month you do a pay-per-view. Like, Daniel Bryan just became WWE champion for the second time. But he's won it twice in a month. He won it once at SummerSlam. He held it for about 10 minutes, dropped it, and then came back the next month and won it again. That stuff just never happened back in the day. Maybe you can cause a split in the time period. And there's the World Heavyweight Championship of, of all-time history, and then there's the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. If you're going to do it like that, I think you have to take Ric Flair out of the running, because Ric Flair never won it. But if it would have been that case, I think it's heads or tails. It's a coin flip. If it's either going to be Edge, who I think took that belt to the highest level that it could have on SmackDown and made it a believable title. Since Edge has left, that title has really dropped and fallen down to the point where nobody really cares about it. I like to call it the new Intercontinental title, which pushes the Intercontinental title back to what the European title used to be, and the United States Championship, like what the Hardcore title used to be. It just really doesn't have a big value on it. Nobody bought Night of Champions last night because they wanted to see Rob Van Dam versus Alberto Del Rio. It would have been a cool moment, yes, but that's it. Honestly, in my mind, if you, cause that split, and you do you would have called that title something else and made it have a different face on it or something like that, Triple H is the greatest WWE World Heavyweight Champion of all time. I know everybody hates the fact that, Eric Bischoff walked down to the ring and just handed Triple H this title out of his briefcase. In storyline, honestly, it made sense. Yes, there was no tournament, there was no battle royal, there was no this, that, or the other, but they had to get that title over. They had to get that title running. When you watch shoot interviews with Rob Van Dam, it's very, very, well known that a lot of people were pissed off that Van Dam wasn't one of the guys that got to beat Triple H for that title back in the day. And Van Dam has came out, it was years later, but he has honestly came out and he said, it made sense. And that time they were trying to get a new title over, which a lot of people looked at as the title of WCW, and WWE had made it known that they only wanted to have one title, and here they are having two titles. They want to have two separate brands, Raw and SmackDown, the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. It's kind of weird that they put their flagship title on the other show, but everybody knows for the longest time, if you were watching during that and reading the sheets and things like that, WWE had plans for SmackDown to become the biggest show. They always did it. If you go back to the first original brand split, look at the way that they stacked SmackDown in that draft. It's not like the way they stack SmackDown now. SmackDown was put over huge with guys like the who went there? The Rock went there. That first draft was huge. I wish I would have looked at it to see who would have been there. I mean, Monday Night Raw didn't get left empty-handed easy at that time. They had an awesome roster in 2002, but when whose show was whose? Wasn't Flair Raw and McMahon was SmackDown? But that first draft was really, really stacked. And when they got that title running with Triple H, I mean, Triple H was going over guys like he had the big feud with Shawn Michaels. He had the big feud with Goldberg. WWE just ran a story, which shouldn't be that hard to find, on WWE.com, where they ran over the greatest World Heavyweight Champions of all time. And Booker T, honestly, he wasn't even I forgot that I was recording with that on the list. I couldn't see what was on my computer. But on that list, they talked about guys like Goldberg, Batista, Triple H, Daniel Bryan, and Alberto Del Rio. Why Del Rio was on there, I have no idea, but I guess it was because he holds the title as of now. Daniel Bryan had a good run a couple of years ago, but that ran out when he ran into Sheamus' foot at WrestleMania. Batista is another guy you can look at who really took the company. WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles, when he faced Triple H in the main event, and then he faced Triple H in the Hell in the Cell. What a great feud that was, and they really looked like they were going to put the company in Batista's hand. He was going to be the face of the company, but somewhere along the way, they put more stock in John Cena, and they probably made one of the biggest moves of all time, which honestly knocks Batista down a peg, is when they did the draft and they switched John Cena to Raw and pushed Batista to SmackDown. In my mind, that honestly sort of put Batista on the back burner, and I think a lot of people will really notice that when they think about the bigger star being Batista or John Cena. I know John Cena is here today, but when Batista was going, I mean, Batista was a force to be reckoned with, and that guy was was over like no other. But I just think that when you measure those two guys, you always got to think of, WB put more stock into John Cena, putting him on the A show and pushing Batista over to the other show. But in hindsight, to me, honestly, Batista got a good fan. SmackDown was already going, but I mean, when Batista got there, I think he rose the level up with like stars like Batista and Rey Mysterio. They got a brand new fan base, and people really got behind that show and pushed it up. But Booker T has the greatest World Heavyweight Champion of all time. I don't think so. I got to go with it's got to be Ric fucking Flair. I mean, I want to make it a case for Triple H and try to give the guy something except for the greatest tag team of all time. But that's not the way they did this poll. It was the poll of all time. There's only one man when you think of the World Heavyweight Championship, and that's Ric fucking Flair. You look on that definitive collection of his, with him in that gray robe with the white feathers, and he's holding that World Heavyweight Championship. Everybody knows in WWF what that World Heavyweight Championship meant. When Bobby Heenan walked out on it with Primetime Wrestling, if you've ever seen that episode, or if you ever watched it back in the day, or when Ric Flair would walk out to those first early matches on Superstars, before he really got it going, and he was wearing that title, and they had to block it out because of the lawsuit from WCW. That belt meant everything. That's why WCW went mad shit crazy when Flair was coming out with it on TV. It was just because they knew how much he meant to that title, and that was the best thing about it. Was that I think honestly, in hindsight, I know Vince put it on his TV, but Vince never jobbed that guy out. I know obviously you signed Ric Flair, you gotta put him in some big money matches, but if he just honestly wanted to bury WCW, if he honestly just wanted to bury Ric Flair, and, I don't think he wanted to bury Ric Flair because he was his new star, but bury the World Heavyweight Championship for what it was, he could have put him out there on Superstars and had Barry Horowitz pin him in some, fluke shot match, and showed everybody what, that World Heavyweight Championship in WCW meant. Was, the lowest ranking star in WWE, Barry Horowitz, who was putting over guys week after week on Raw and Superstars, could win that belt. But yeah, that's my gripe. Booker T, I love you. I don't know why you show up on TV all the time. It's a shame. I know that a lot of people thought I was racist and I was saying some bad things when I said that Booker T should have stayed in TNA instead of going to WWE for that Royal Rumble, however many years ago that was. But I know you don't want to wrestle anymore, but the spot you have in WWE with, they took you off announcing in order to be the GM, and then they took you off being the GM, and now you just seem to walk around Raw every week and do these pay-per-view countdown specials and show up during the pay-per-view, which we already bought, and hype us up on why we bought the show and what's going on. And we know what's going on in the show because we bought the card. It's not a surprise what's on a WWE pay-per-view unless you guys throw us Kofi Kingston, Curtis Axel matches, and Miz versus Fandango matches that are unadvertised. But I don't know, guys. Ric Flair is my World Heavyweight Champion of all time, and whoever you guys voted for is whoever you guys voted for. I didn't vote. I can't complain that loud, but I just gave you 13 minutes of complaining, so I apologize, and have fun, guys. Peace out.